Hi everyone, I'm very excited about this tutorial today because I am obsessed with eyebrows. Eyebrows are so important for framing your face shape and really bringing out and balancing out all of your features. So they say eyes are the windows to the soul. If that's the case, we need some good frames on our windows. Now, a few things to remember when you are doing your eyebrows. First, and most importantly, eyebrows are sisters, not twins. So don't drive yourself crazy. Get them as close as possible, but recognize that you are a human being and we're not completely symmetrical. So give yourself a little bit of break with that first and foremost. And then second of all, there is a fine line between brows that are, well done and brows that are a little, what we would call fierce. Absolutely nothing wrong with fierce brows. I think some people can rock them amazingly. This is not a fierce eyebrow tutorial. This is a very well done brow tutorial. So I really like defined brows that still look somewhat natural. This may not look natural to some of you, but this is my interpretation of natural but not too strong. So I'm going to show you my tips and tricks, and we're going to talk a little bit about different products that you can use to define your brows. Okay, very popular products that people use are eyeshadows with eyebrow brushes. This is a very popular way to do your eyebrows because this fills in your brows very well. If you have sparse brows, the eyeshadow really adheres to the skin underneath your brows, so you can get a nice solid look. And a lot of people feel that they have very good control over an angled brush. So for myself, being a brunette, I like to use charcoal brown by MAC, and my 269 brush. But truthfully, finding a color is one of the most important things, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's finish with our tools first. You can also use eyebrow pencils. A few pencils that I have and I really like are ones that have the pencil on one end and the brush on the other. So they're two in one. This particular one is Brunette by MAC. This particular one is Brunette by Anastasia or Anastasia of Beverly Hills, who makes amazing brow products. You can also use brow pens. Brow pens look a little bit, this one's a little bit old, but this is a felt tip pen. And these are very good for creating or mimicking actual hairs because you can get really defined little brush strokes. This one is by MAC. It's called Penulitimate Brow Liner. Ugh, I can't talk. And this one is by Anastasia, Beverly Hills, however you want to say it. And this is a universal light shade, which works really well for blondes to brunettes. I don't have an example of this, but you can also use brow gels that are essentially look like mascara, but it's brow color, and you use it to actually darken your eyebrow color. Now that is for people who really already have the shape that they want, just want to darken their eyebrows, which a lot of us do. However, if you want to define your brows and create a more pleasing shape for yourself, then the pencil, the felt tip, or the shadow with the brush is the way to go. First, let's talk about shape. So not everyone has the perfect eyebrow shape. More often than not, we do not grow our eyebrows as long meaning the tail end, as we would like. So that's often the first thing that we want to correct. Because with the shape of our brows, there is a formula. The formula is this. We want to start our brow pretty much in line with the inner corner of our eye. So if we placed our finger, I'll actually use a brush so my big finger won't get in the way. If we placed a brush on the outer corner of our nose and lined it up with the inner corner of our eye, that's where we'd want our brow to start. Where we would want our natural arch is pretty much in line if you lined the nose up to the iris. That's where you want your arch to be. And then you want the end of your brow to line up with your nose and the outer corner of your eye. So that kind of gives you the blueprint. And that's a blueprint that most people should follow. We all have different shapes, and you want to work with your shape, not against it. But that is our good blueprint that we all want to be able to have a nice frame for our eye shape, because you're measuring it against your own eye. So it's very important to follow that. Now, as far as how high or how flat your arch is, Work with that, not against that. There are some beautiful examples of different shapes of brows. Not one is right, not one is wrong. It's what you were born with. It's emphasizing and working with that instead of against it. So here are a few examples. Natalie Portman is in that top picture. She has rather straight, defined brows that are gorgeous. Megan Fox is in the middle with nicely defined arches. And Jessie James Decker is on the bottom with very full arches. All of those brows are beautiful. Again, it is just following the blueprint for whatever shape you already have. Now let's talk about color. So color can be very, very tricky. And one secret that I want to tell you is with a lot of eyeshadows, if you're going to use shadow as a brow color, when you first look at the shadow, you might think that it might match your color very, very well. However, a lot of shadows turn red on the skin. So unless you are a redhead, you want to aim for browns that have a little bit more of a gray undertone, which sounds crazy, but trust me, they will warm up on your skin. So let's take a look at a few different hair colors on celebrities and how they match their brows to their hair. Blondes should go 1 to 2 shades darker than their hair color or match their eyebrows to the darkest shade of blonde in their hair, which is normally at the roots. Redheads can either match their brows exactly to their hair color or go a slightly darker, warmer shade of brown. Medium-toned brunettes, which also includes dark or dirty blonde, should pretty much match their eyebrow color to their hair color. And finally, dark brunettes to black hair should match their eyebrows 1 to 2 shades lighter than their hair color. This will keep their eyebrows from looking too harsh and help soften the features. Okay, let's get down to business. So I'm going to do both brows, but I'm going to use a different product in each brow so you can see a few different things in action. But the first thing I'm going to do is comb my unruly brows. As you can see, my brows are slightly lighter, kind of an ashy brown. So I like to define and deepen them just a little bit. And my eyebrow hairs are very long. As you can see as I brush these up, how they stick up. Very long hair, but not quite as full as I would like. So I'm brushing them in the direction of growth. That's very important first because that's what we want to work with. We don't want to work against our brows, we want to work with them. So for this brow, I'm going to use shadow and an angled brush. This is Charcoal Brown Eyeshadow by MAC and the 269 brush, which is one of my favorite brushes to use. I'm going to start on the end of my brow and create the tail of my brow first, just using long strokes with my brush. I want to get it long enough to align with the outer edge of my eye. Then I'm going to define my arch, which, as we spoke about, is pretty much in line with the iris. I'm looking straight on the outside of my iris. Now next, what I want to do is start underneath the base of my brow, the thicker part. I'm going to draw a line from underneath to the arch that I just defined. So the line goes from the base to the arch. That gives that nice defined shape. Defining from underneath is what gives you the best shape. And from that point, I just take my brush and I start to fill in. Very softly. I don't want my brow to be as heavy right through here. I want it to be more defined out in this area. That keeps the look a little bit more natural. So again, I'm just using that brush to fill in this area very lightly. And it's as simple as that. As I'm filling in, as you notice, my brush strokes are mimicking the direction of hair growth. I do not want to draw a line right here to indicate the beginning of my brow. That looks very unnatural. You want this brow to naturally start. So even having a few hairs right through here is fine as long as it's blended with the makeup. It actually looks more youthful and natural that way. I'm going to use the Anastasia brow pen. This is the Universal Light shade. So on this eye, I'm going to start with my tail. Long strokes to extend the tail of my brow to where I want it, in line with the outer corner of my eye. Then I'm going to come up and define the arch, which again falls in line with the outside of the iris. And same thing under here, I'm going to start at the base of my brow, right where it begins to arch up, and I'm going to draw a line from the base up to the arch. As you can see, the Anastasia pen is a little red for me right now. My hair was auburn when I purchased this, but I wanted to show you it because I wanted to show you how the pens work and so you could see them in action. So now with this pen, because this pen you get a little bit more precision, I'm going to work through the base of my brow, mimicking those hairs, and it will fill in by creating false looking hairs to blend with my own. Again, taking note not to be too heavy-handed at the inner base of the brow, right through here. You want the brow to naturally start right there, not abruptly start with a drawn, defined square shape right here. Okay, so we have two brows, one done with shadow and a brush, and the other one done with a felt tip pen. So this one gives you a little bit more precision as far as if you're wanting to mimic actual hairs, and this one gives you a little bit more of a filled in effect. I like to go back with my brushes and brush it out again, especially the shadow, to give it a nice blended look. Remember the pencils that I showed earlier? The pencils would fall somewhere in the middle between a shadow and the felt tip pen. It's going to be a little softer than the felt tip pen, but still have the precision. It's going to be a little bit more blendable like the shadow. So if you want something in between these two mediums, the pencil might be the way that you want to go. And then last but not least, another product that I like are brow finishers. They're usually some sort of wax or pomade that helps to hold unruly brows in place. So if you have a problem with your eyebrow hairs kind of going crazy, you might want to invest in a brow pomade or a brow finisher. This one is by MAC. It's called Brunette. It is actually tinted, very, very lightly tinted. And what you would do is after you have shaped and defined your brows, you would actually just go over your brow hairs and it acts like a little pomade holding them in place. This one is tinted, but you can buy clear ones as well if you don't want to add any additional color to your brows or darken them any further. But it's really good at holding those hairs in place. Some people like to spray a mascara wand or the little eyebrow brush that you use to brush them with some hairspray and then go over your eyebrows in lieu of a brow finisher, and that works really well too. One last tip for finishing those brows and defining your arches is to highlight underneath your brow. So I like to use shadow or some sort of cheek highlighter, something that's not too shimmery. Unless you're going for a very dramatic look at night, I strongly suggest using something that isn't terribly frosty. This is Vapor Eyeshadow by MAC, and my 217 brush. And I like to highlight right on that brow bone. If you're using something that's not too shimmery, another advantage is you can actually go above your brow. And that pops out your brow bone and emphasizes the shape as well. So choose a shadow slightly lighter than your skin tone, minimal shimmer that will just highlight and emphasize your brow structure. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it helps you define your own brows and become pleased with how your own brows frame your face. A little piece of advice before we go, always, always, always get your brows done by a trusted professional. Waxing can literally make or break your brows if it's done right or wrong. So make sure you go to somebody that you trust, bring a picture, tell them exactly what you want, because your interpretation of arched might be a little bit different than somebody else's interpretation of arched. And once those eyebrow hairs are gone, as I'm sure some of you have experienced or already know, it takes a long time to grow brows back. So please, please, please trust your eyebrows to a professional or pluck them on your own. There is absolutely no harm in doing that as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe and I will see you all soon.